So I finished a new book kind of recently. Oh my gosh, excuse me. It was 2 books ago though, so my memory on it isn't as clear as I would like it to be. The book is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. He's a British author. The book was written in published in 1954. It is a kind of examination on what would happen if society would to lose its authority, lose its unspoken rules, kind of, and if everybody was given free rein to do what they wanted. Kind of. I'll explain as we go. So it starts out, a plane full of British boys from school crashes on an island in the middle of the ocean, an uninhabited island. All the adults die. The only people who are alive are the kids. As far as we know, all the kids survived, and there's about 30 of them. The book starts out with our main character, Ralph, and he meets Piggy. Ralph is kind of quiet, but he's sure of himself. He's very stubborn. Piggy is first of all, he's obese, which is why he's called Piggy, because he's fat, and he has asthma, so it makes it very difficult for him to, one, help out, and he's very insecure as well, so he's not very assertive, he's not very what was that? Not very present, I guess, in conversations and whatnot. But he's definitely the smartest person in the book. And I really like the choice by William to write Piggy like this, because Piggy can't really help out physically. He can't really help out by leading, because he's definitely not a leader. He's unsure of himself. He's timid. He's kind of scaredy cat. But his head's in the right place. His heart's in the right place. And he has a bunch of great advice, even though if he himself can't really articulate it or understand that it's the right thing to do. And he has a hell of a time trying to convince the other boys to listen to him, because they just don't respect him. I don't really want to put too much of my thoughts of society and blah 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 into this, but I think you can imply and infer where I'm going with some of my descriptions of these characters. Anyways, so Ralph and Piggy head down to the beach and they find a conch. The conch shells, the things that people blow, make noises. It's kind of cool. So they found one of those, and Piggy tells Ralph to blow the conch and to collect all the boys on the beach so they can have their first meeting. So Ralph does this, and all the boys come, sit in a circle. There's about 30 of them, the youngest being about 6, the oldest being about 12. Ralph is one of the older boys. Eventually they all get there, and we are introduced to our third main character, named Jack. Jack is very similar to Ralph, but he's a bit more charismatic. And he comes to the group with he comes to the conch with a group of boys already, that he's already, collected himself. And already they're wearing different uniforms, or different, I think they have a black cloak or something on, that shows that they're of a different group than the one that Ralph has called together. Very interesting indeed. And of course, those 2 boys are the 2 that start arguing and start trying to organize what's going on. So first thing is they decide that they need a chief to kind of rule and to kind of just make sure everything works, and to allocate resources and command the rest of the boys. Jack thinks it should be him just because. There's really no reason. Ralph thinks it should be him, once again, for no reason other than he's the one who blew the conch. I really like this idea because, first of all, the best choice would be Piggy, because he's the one who set this whole thing up. He saw the conch in the water. He instructed Ralph how to pick it up. He instructed Ralph how to blow it, how to use it, and yet he can't do any of these things. He couldn't get into the water to get it because he's physically incapable of doing it. He couldn't blow the conch because of his asthma. So Ralph was the one who did all of that, and still Ralph believes that it was all his ideas. And Piggy recognizes that he did this, but he's not assertive enough to claim responsibility for that, and to tell the boys, or to even claim that he should be the chief, which is kind of sad. I'm sure you can kind of infer, like, the societal pressures, and why, that's hard to explain, because there's a lot of implications. Anyways, eventually the boys choose Ralph simply because he was the loudest on the conch, and he brought everybody together by blowing up the conch. And that's how they chose their chief. A little disconcerting when you think of the. If you think about that in your own life, and how sometimes the loudest person gets the most, not even the most respect or the most power, just the most attention, and from that they can make things happen around them. Bugs me, especially since I'm a little more like Piggy, or I'm a bit quieter. I don't talk too much. I think more than I talk. It's annoying, to me at least, to see somebody like Ralph just become chief because he was the loudest. Anyways, I'm sure we all know somebody like that in real life. I know I do. I know a couple people like that. Anyways, so they try to figure out what's the most important thing. Ralph says they need to light a signal fire. Eventually, God, now my mind's a bit foggy. I can't remember the exact order that this happens. But they decide to light a signal fire in the center of I believe it's an old volcano at the top of the mountain. They all get excited. They all charge up the mountain to light the signal fire. Every single boy goes up there. And they're up there. Oh, how does it happen? I can't exactly remember how it happened. But they light a signal fire at the top of the mountain with Piggy's glasses. They concentrate the sun's rays. And then somehow it gets out of control. Oh gosh, I think I'm messing up the order. It gets out of control and one of the boys dies. Gets burned up in the fire that raged throughout the island. Not completely throughout the whole island, just in a chunk of it. God, I can't remember. It doesn't really weigh heavily on anybody. It's just every now and then it's remembered. It's not like it doesn't feel real to any of the boys, because they're all only 6 and 12. Between 6 and 12, they don't really have any concept of empathy quite yet, like true empathy, It doesn't really feel real to them. God, I just keep thinking about different parts of the book. My mind is bouncing right now. It's so interesting. There's a part where one of the young boys, actually the boy who died, told the whole group that he believes that there's a monster out in the jungle. I think it was described to be some sort of snake. And of course, Ralph and Jack are all talking about how there's no monster, but they have no proof. They do not know for sure. And eventually, they keep repeating it, but they're no longer starting to believe themselves. Eventually, everybody kind of assumes that there's a monster, but they're just lying to themselves to convince themselves that there's no monster. But they don't know for certain. Eventually, they kind of figure out, or they assume that it was one of the boys relieving themselves in a place that they weren't supposed to. And it wasn't in fact a monster. But even that isn't enough to dispel those fears. That there might be something out there hunting them. Now I forgot how I was going to tie that in. God, it's such a good book, though. I really need to write this stuff down. I don't even know where to go from here. Eventually, there's so many just little things throughout the book. It's hard to talk about the big pieces when everything just lines up. Eventually, their diet is mainly fruits, vegetables, and whatever they can forage. Eventually, Jack, who's been appointed by Ralph to be a hunter, hunts and kills a pig. They cut off its head and stick it on they take a spear and they sharpen both ends. They stick it in the ground and they stick the pig's head on it. Kind of as a, warning and offering. No, that's not right. No, that's not right. No, I'm getting it messed up. Jack kills a pig, yes. But they don't cut off its head yet. They cook it, they eat it. Gosh, oh man, I don't remember the book as well as I thought I did. Yeah. Okay, so there's... Oh man. Oh, Jesus Christ. So there's... Gosh, this is tough. Because so much happens, and right now I'm just not remembering the order it happens in. I promise I'll get to somewhere sometime. I'll get someplace sometime eventually. Isn't that true of everything? So they're still afraid that there's some kind of beast in the island. They haven't truly convinced themselves that there's not. Eventually, another human, an adult, he must have been like paragliding or something, and he died. And the winds brings his corpse, still attached to the parachute paraglider thing, up and lands it on top of the mountain, where it gets stuck. To the kids, I think it's Sam and Eric, they're twins, they notice something. They were in charge of the signal fire. They didn't see it land. They were in charge of the signal fire in the top of the mountain, and they notice something's watching them. And they see the corpse, but they don't recognize it as a corpse. They see it as a monster. And the parachute that's tangled in the trees. It's making scary sounds. And of course they freak out. They run down to the beach. They tell all the boys. Everybody's freaking out. They don't know what to do. Eventually they decide they can't go back to the signal fire. They have to stay on the beach. And everything is kind of a little more hectic, because now they believe that the beast is real and they're all going to die. So this is when Jack kills, I believe it's the second pig now. And they sharpen the stick on both ends. They stick it on the ground, and then they put the head on the spike, kind of as an offering to the monster, to the beast. That is up in the... Oh man, there's a part that happens right here that I forgot about. Oh dang. As an offering. Was it Simon? No, it was Roger. It was Roger. Anyways. And then they bring the pig back to the camp, and they're all having fun. But they get into an argument. Ralph and Jack into an argument, and Ralph decides that he's going to take his tribe and split off from Ralph. And they go to a different part of the island to eat their pig. Eventually all the boys, except the twins, Sam and Eric, and Piggy, stay with Ralph. So there's 4 people versus 20-ish, 20-odd people. Eventually the four can smell and hear the sounds of partying, so they go down to Jack's camp, and they're invited in to eat some of the pig. And then they start having this weird ritual thing, where they're in a circle and somebody's pretending to be a pig, and they're pretending to kill it, and they're shouting. Let me get this right. Here we go. Oop, no, that's not. I do not want a YouTube video. Kill the pig, cut her throat, spill her blood. That's kind of what they chant as they're doing their ritual thing. And they're acting out what they did to the pig, just by killing it and stuff. And as they're doing this, one of the boys, I believe it's Roger, has been up on the mountain to see what this beast really is. He hasn't told anybody. He goes up to the mountain, he finds out that it's just a corpse. It's just a body that has happened to catch. And he identifies it for what it is. He comes back while they're all having their dance and ritual to tell them. But he comes out and it's dark, right? They can't see anything. They see him and they believe him to be some kind of monster, I believe. And so he gets thrown into the center of the ring, and all the boys stab him, poke him, beat him until he dies. And then does he fall off a cliff? Anyways, he dies and gets thrown in the water somehow. The next day, everybody kind of realizes what they've done, but they can't accept it. They can't come to terms with what they've done, even though they were all part of this murder. Oh man, it's so interesting. It's so good. I don't want to like tell you what happened or tell you what I think what happened in terms of the relationship between the regression of their civil their societal regression, because the whole point of the book is that you get what you want out of it. You get what or the ideas and the perspective that you gain from this book is yours and yours alone. The author had made a point about that. I'm going to read it at the end, which is why I'm hesitating so much to really tell you what I think about the book, besides that it's really freaking good. Because of how the author is very clear that whatever you get from the book, don't listen to your teachers, don't listen to your professors, don't listen to your friends, don't listen to your parents, don't listen to the politicians, don't listen to anybody, yourself, after you've read this book. I kind of want to read that right now. Anyways, I'll read it at the end. I'll try to wrap this up quick. How long have I been recording for? 18 minutes. Okay, I'm on track. So that happens, and they're all kind of horrified. Ralph and the other three go back to their camp, and Jack stays at his camp. They're still split. Eventually, they come back together to kill the beast. They figure out. Actually, I think the corpse gets dragged away by the wind. It grabs the parachute and drags the corpse away. So when they go up there to, kill the beast, confront the real beast, it's gone. So they think it's hiding somewhere else on the island. Eventually, they assume it's on one end of a bunch of rocks. Ralph and Jack go with a group to try to kill it, but of course, there's nothing there. Eventually, Ralph and Jack again have another big disagreement where Jack has decided to completely split from Ralph and create his own tribe, because he's unsatisfied with Ralph's persistence that the fire and the signal fire is the number one priority, and that he constantly relies on Piggy for advice. Jack, on the other hand, believes that nobody's coming to help them, and the only thing that they should be focusing on is hunting and killing and getting pigs and eating meat. A lot of the boys agree with that, and of course Jack is far more charismatic than Ralph. So all the boys except for Sam, Eric, and Piggy once again leave to do stuff, or to join Jack's tribe. God, it's so painful. It's just two loud people yelling at the top of their voices, both with terrible ideas, and yet everybody follows them. I think that's really what William wanted to be taken away from there, regardless of who you choose. There's a saying that I like to use called a horse apiece. What I use it for mainly is, like, let's say I need to drive at Target or something. I can either go down 26th Street to go to Target, or I can go through downtown to get to Target. But the thing is, Target is like directly diagonal from my house. So if I either take 26th Street or the downtown route, it's a horse apiece. Like, it's equally challenging, equally easy. Either way you go. And in this instance, it's a horse apiece. Who you choose. You side with Jack or you side with Ralph. Because they're both garbage. You know. One's definitely worse. And it starts to go to his head. Like, at this point, they're both kind of bad. Neither of them is working. Neither of them is... They're just being loud. They're not really trying their best. They're just trying to... doing things. Without any clear end goal. But Jack... this power that he gets leading his tribes goes to his head. And he has them all... I believe he has them strip and wear... kind of like more of a tribal-esque outfits. And he has them put face paint all on their heads, and he pulls their hair back into ponytails so they can better see and fight. Everybody's armed now. They all have spears. They have defenses with rocks at the top of their little encampment, so they can throw it at literally the only 4 other people on the island, who are... they're not even dangerous. They're just the other group. I don't want to get too much into in and out groups, but I hate in and out groups. There's another group, there's another book that, what was it? There was a book I read that really did a good job of showing the dangers of in and out groups. Of others, of different people, and how just knowing that they're different causes you to hate them. For no other reason. I feel like I'm not being very clear on that, but if I find that book, I figure out which one that was, I'm going to have to do a gush on that book. I also want to write my own book on that, on in and out groups. It's honestly a very common theme throughout a lot of commentary books, like Lord of the Flies, Gulliver's Travels. A lot of anime have the in and out groups where you're different, therefore I dislike you. Even in American politics, it's very prevalent. Specifically in the bi-party system. The in and out of that. That's kind of what's being shown here, but to a more murderous extreme. Not saying that murderous extremes don't exist in the real world. Now I'm just trying to cover my butt. I shouldn't be doing that. Anyways. Eventually, the small group with Ralph, they go and try to amend things with Jack. Because Jack stole Piggy's glasses so they can light a fire. Ouch. And that was the only thing that... Ralph would have given them fire. He didn't care. Like, if they wanted fire, they would just give him a branch of fire and he'd be, okay, go on your way. But that's not how Jack works. Jack needed to take it by force. And this, of course, makes everybody angry. Eventually, Jack and Ralph start fighting. Everybody's really worked up. One of the people on the top of the embankment, I believe it's Simon? I can't remember for sure. Looses a giant boulder and it comes tumbling down and kills Piggy. splits his head open, and he falls down off the cliff into the water. So Piggy's dead. And this is horrifying for everybody. So no, it's not though. It's not, is it? It's not horrifying for everybody. It's only horrifying for Ralph. And he leaves. Sam and Eric have been tied up, so they're forced to stay. And of course Jack takes this as a victory, showing that he's stronger, blah blah blah, and everybody rallies behind him. Eventually they decide to treat Ralph as a pig. They start running throughout the island trying to catch him. The first night they don't find him, so they have to retire. The second night, Ralph sneaks back to Jack's camp and talks with Sam and Eric, who have been forcibly taken into the ranks, and they're standing guard. He tells them where he's going to hide, and he tries to get them to direct the group away from him so they can keep living, even though he's being hunted. Eventually they get caught, though, by Jack. They get tortured, and they tell him where Ralph was hiding. They drop another boulder towards Ralph, and just blasts through the tanglement of weeds that he was hiding in. Because he was hiding in like a super packed area where only one person could get in at a time, and of course that's good because you can poke him if that's the only place you can get in. Poke him with a spear. But they still can't get him. He's still in there. He still won't come out. So they set fire to the brush. And this is when shit starts to go down, because the whole island goes up in flames. And they're all chasing after him, hooting and hollering. And they chase him to the beach, where the conch first was, where Piggy died, but where the first meeting happened. And on the beach is a boat, and a group of British sailors who saw the island burning, and they came to see what was going on. And of course there's Ralph, who comes barreling out of the underbrush, wearing not much but his old British uniform, still in tatters. And behind him is a whole group of what looks to be savages. I know it has a very negative notation, but I think the word will do just fine for what William wanted in his book. And Jack and the others are finally confronted with what they've done, because they see, it's so tough. It's a little insulting. No, it's not. It's not about the. Oh, it's weird. It's a good book. It's because it's. I'm trying to make this. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. That's not like demeaning or, super insulting. Because it's all about the headspace that they're in. It's all about perceived savageness, perceived. What is the word? Not civility. Oops, come on, work. Not utopia. I can't think of it. It starts with that. Oh my gosh, what is it? I hate this. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Civil? civilized. Why could I not think of that? It's about perceived notations as civilized and savagery, and how these boys went straight from believing themselves to be civil, believing themselves to be a proper British boys, into just absolutely maniacal, crazy nutcases who are chasing each other around the island, trying to kill each other. It's interesting, and it's a really depressing look on how. I'm not sure. Like I said, it's really difficult because William Gold. It's not Goldberg. It's Golding. Was very clear that he wanted his book to be. He didn't himself want to tell you what he wrote. He didn't want to take what he said as gospel for this book. He wants you to know, or you to draw your own conclusions from it. But I believe that this is a very depressing and pessimistic look on what might happen if society were to degrade, or were to, like this, reset. It's tough too, because it's, like I said earlier, the boys are too young to know like true empathy, or to really understand. It's tough because you see like shows these days. Bear Grylls does like Survivor, right? But those are adults. Those are experts. They know what they're doing. Like, what would happen if just a bunch of kids were dropped off in the middle of nowhere? It's so interesting. I don't think this is what would happen. I honestly don't. But it is an interesting thought experiment. And what would you do? How would you? Would I do anything else different? I would like to say I am, but I'm also an adult. I'm not 12 anymore. It's so difficult to think of. It really makes me appreciate the adult role models and whatnot. And just the idea of it, the authority that they bring. I don't know. It's tough. It's a lot to think of, and I feel like I'm always hesitant because I can't talk to you directly, and I can't have a back and forth, even though I'd love to do that. I don't want to put words into your mouth. That's the worst thing I feel I could do, especially with. Here, I'm going to read the afterwords. The afterword. Where can I find the afterword? No, I don't want to buy the book. Can I find a PDF of it somewhere? Here's a PDF of it. Okay, so I can't find it online. It might be an Audible exclusive, and he might just be speaking. I don't know if it was written down. Anyways, I'm going to be listening to it here and trying to parrot what he's saying. First, he says the main getaway he wants his readers to get is, at least in his mind, this is a good example of what happens when the rules aren't followed, when society itself refuses to follow the rules and kind of regresses. But really, what I really wanted to, I guess I can't read it. I have to parrot it, like I said. But William says there's been so many interpretations of this book, some of them even contradictory, And he himself is not going to choose one, and he encourages you not to choose one either. He encourages you to make your own. He even says that the only one that matters, if you want an interpretation, the only interpretation that matters is your own, whatever you yourself draws from it. And I think I was very hesitant through this entire 30-ish minutes, 30-odd minutes of my rambles, because I wanted to respect that. And I myself agree with what he said entirely. He even says what an author thinks he put into the book, and what you get out of a book, that is the right one, not what the author put in or what he thought he put in, but what you get from the book. And he doesn't even want you to listen to what his official stance and what his intentions was for writing this book. I highly respect that. I probably will read more of this man's works, because that shows good character in my eyes. Anyways, I do highly, highly recommend this book. It is a bit slow. It can be a bit painful to get through, because, especially since I assume we're all adults listening to this. As an adult, it's difficult to put yourself back in the mind of a young boy and think of what decisions you would have made, and would things have turned out differently. It is a little stressful to think about, for me at least. But yes, do please read this book if you want some food for thought. I'm going to be doing... I read one by Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451, which I think ties quite nicely into the encouragement that William Golding put at the end of his book. And I want to talk about that next, in the next video I make, but that is for either later today or tomorrow. So, alright, take it easy, y'all. Bye.